Welcome to the channel, and today we'll be doing the Rumble and Frenzy custom repaint. I made this tutorial for those of you who just can't wait for the official release of Frenzy. So let's paint some plastic, let's go! To start the custom, let's spray the whole figure with a smooth clear matte coat. Next we will use a gunmetal marker and paint all the grey parts. I highly recommend that you use a soft tip marker for this part of the painting, as you can work the paint into the small details. If you can't get a soft tip marker in your area, what I suggest is that you can actually squeeze out the paint from the marker and then reapplying it with a paintbrush. When you have finished painting all the grey areas with the gunmetal marker, let it dry for a while and then we'll move on to the next step. Next we will use Runefang steel from Citadel Color and a piece of sponge to create the scratch marks on the figure. Before you start painting on the actual figure, you can try painting on some unwanted toys to see if the sponge is loaded with the right amount of paint. To create the scratch marks, gently tap on the edges and swipe. Repeat the process until you are satisfied. Some of you asked the question, how much should I do for the scratch marks? Basically, it's up to you. If you feel that is enough, you can stop. If you want to know more about this process, I actually have a separate tutorial that only teaches this portion of the painting. You can check it out in my channel. Next, we will use the panel line accent color from Tamiya to stain all the little details on the figure. Wait for the paint to dry and then you can clean off any excess with tissue paper and enamel thinner. After the staining is done, we'll be moving on to the last part. Now use a metallic red marker and we'll touch up the eyes of Rumble. The visor is quite small. As you can see, I made a mistake. The red actually smudged onto the side. But don't worry, we'll clean that up with a gunmetal marker. Now use the same red marker and then touch up all the red details on the figure. And that's it, the completed Rumble custom. Some of you have asked the question of why I did not unpin the figure and then prime it separately and then paint it with an airbrush. The truth is that not everybody have an airbrush, and then this way of painting actually allows you to transform and play with the figure and it doesn't flake that bad. And to be honest, it's relatively easy, so everybody can try this. Now let's move on to the next part of the tutorial. We finished the Rumble, so let's go on to part 2, Frenzy. For the first step, we'll spray the whole thing black with a black primer. I missed a little bit on the feet, but that's okay, don't worry. We will use a red marker to paint the shoulder and the thighs red. I'm using a soft tip marker, but a hard tip one from Posca will also do fine here. Most of the red markers tends to be a little bit thin and kinda like semi-translucent. The coverage is not so good, so we have to go a few rounds before we can actually get the bright red that we want. You will need to let the paint fully dry before going on a second coat. While waiting for this part to dry, you can actually go paint another part. This will help you speed up the process and get more painting done in a shorter time. So in between each layer, I actually waited a while for it to dry and then coming back again to paint it. In total, I took about 4 coats to achieve the bright red. After the red is done, I painted some of the details with the yellow marker. You'll notice that I left out some of the more difficult yellow details and we'll come back to them again. For the next step, we'll be cleaning up all the red smudges by painting them over with a black marker. This will make your painting look very tight and neat. Now that you've cleaned up the figure with the black marker, we'll go back and do the yellow details again. For this part, we'll use a soft tip yellow marker to repaint back the yellow details on the crotch. Don't worry if the lines look very uneven at this point because we'll touch up again with the black marker. And then again, we'll touch up with a fine tip Gundam marker to make sure the lines are very tight. And after that, don't forget to draw the 2 yellow spots on the upper part. And next we'll repeat the same process on the 2 yellow rings for the biceps. Gently paint out the yellow rings and then we'll clean up with the black marker. After finishing this part of the painting, you may want to seal it up with a clear matte coat. We will now repeat the same process of creating the scratch marks that we did earlier on Rumble. Looking good so far and we are almost done, so for the next part we'll use the gunmetal marker and then we'll paint all the matching parts to Rumble, which includes the head, the shoulder caps, the forearms and the lower legs. Next, we'll use a red metallic marker and then touch up the eyes. And also the yellow marker for the little dots on the feet. Finally, for the last step, we'll stain with panel line accent color from Tamiya. Earlier on, I've actually coated the figure with a clear matte coat, so at this point, if I make any mistake, I can just wipe it off with enamel paint thinner and tissue. And we are done! The Rumble and Frenzy Custom. I hope you've enjoyed the video and we'll be back with a sound wave tutorial. So see you again, bye!